never give up. I never give up. I never give up.
Hi guys, welcome back to my Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today, it's going to be a very interesting interview because I've got Tom Meyers with me. Tom Meyers is the author of Futurize Yourself. He's a man who was not good for anything. He was a lost cause as a young man, a failure. And then he figured out that actually, firstly, the past does not equal the future. Secondly, there are ways forward how we all can grow. He learned how to future-proof himself, how to survive in this ever-changing, ever more chaotic world. And when I read that, I thought, I need to have this guy on my show. So, Tom, thank you so much for being a guest on my show.
Thank you very much, Stephan. It's always a pleasure to listen to you, look at you, and now to be part of your show. So thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be here.
Oh, an absolute pleasure, man. It's beautiful that your transformation into this man now who wants this to really make this world a better place by a number of means. It's just so beautiful that actually answers already a question that I actually wanted to ask you. Is there still hope for this bloody world? We have got, pandemics. We are never closer to the doomsday clock, to midnight. Okay, these are some very shitty times. Yet you're saying there is hope. How do you get onto that boat? How do you think?
Yeah, there is hope because when there is darkness, there is light, right? When there is light, there is a shadow. And most of the time when some things are really, really bright, then they cast big, big shadows as well. And so we are maybe into this kind of duality world of shadow and light at the same time. And at the end of the day is what are we as individuals going to do with it? Right? How are we going to deal with that? The world has become much smaller due to the technologies that we are using. And we are worrying, rightfully sometimes, about far distant places. But sometimes we forget that we have a lot of control where we are and who we are and how we react to these things. And it's something we need to learn, right? And so if more people are taking small steps to better themselves, you create a giant leap for mankind. Perfect. And this is not me talking. This is just, I would say, a universal law. So let's start to look from what we are doing as individuals, not waiting for other people or not waiting for other people to decide about our faith, and start taking that what we can take in control and taking control over it.
Indeed.
And your control over what you're doing, what you're saying, your decisions, your choices has an impact not only on yourself, but also on other people. Every single decision, every single choice, every action you take has influence. So think about that. What are you deciding? How are you acting? What is your behavior? And start with that and say, how can I make this day a little bit better? How can I make it better for myself and other people by doing something that is rightfully a small step? But, when you smile to somebody and that smile comes back, or when you say a nice word, or when you get a nice word, this is also one that I find fascinating, and that when I heard it, when somebody gives you a compliment, don't say, oh, it's nothing. Say thank you. That's very kind. I really appreciate that. And then you've already started to shine a light, right? And yes, it will not solve all the big problems, but...
Oh, please. No, I love what you say. And we are so bad in taking compliments. We are so bad in the voices that we let talk within ourselves, at ourselves. Man, oh, you idiot. You stupid man, the way we call ourselves, we are our worst critics. And so many people do not know how to take a compliment. They do not know how to be actually to accept what is someone saying with gratitude, and therefore let the other person actually give. And the act of giving, by you saying, no, it's nothing, you belittle that act of giving, of trying to do something. You're so
Exactly.
right. Very nicely said.
And you can also go even a step further in that if they give you a compliment, start to analyze what they are saying. From what kind of talents are they highlighting in you, and that you maybe didn't realize that it was something special, right?
Okay.
So you can learn from that, from to say from, hey, this is somebody said that, hey, somebody else said that, so there starts to be a pattern. And this is also how I got out of that kind of deep down, good for nothing, because I was told from start looking what people say to you and say from, hey, thank you, Tom, can you help me with this? Or Tom, I've got this problem, or can you help me with this? And that looking at that, say, from why do they ask me this and not my friends, right? And then you can start to figure out parts of who you are. So you can use these kind of compliments in a very beautiful way, and and then learn from that, and then improve yourself, and then it's building up.
But I mean, you're now in the light, and you try to be the light in the darkness of others. In order to become that light, you have to be in the darkness yourself. So if we were to go back to the times where you describe yourself as not good for anything, where did that thought come from? Was it that other people told you, or that your expectations were very different? Were their expectations different? Where did this negative picture come from?
Well, many failures, I would say also. So I was trained as a chef. Yeah, so I was trained as a chef because I didn't know better. And I went to catering school when I was 12 years old. And then when I finished, when I was 19, I went to work in England. So I live in Belgium. I went to work in England to improve my English in hotels, and then went on the cruise ship, and then I got promoted, and then that promotion didn't go very well. I got like a sort of a mental breakdown during, a couple of weeks after the first improvement of becoming a supervisor. And I had so many of these events. So every time that I stepped up one notch into the hierarchy, that I would just collapse. That was one part that you say from, okay, I can only be a waiter, and that's about for the rest of my life. That is going to be that. Then also some episodes with my father that were in a way contributing also to say from, Tom, on a Monday I go to work, and my colleagues talk about their sons and their daughters and their school reports, and what have I got to say about you? Nothing. I can't even be proud of you, and then, bam, yeah, right. Thank you very much. And so these elements are contributing to a sort of a complex, and that you're not good. And then when I came back from traveling around the world, working hotels, so when I was 28, I came back to Belgium, and then a friend of mine said from, hey, Tom, what are you going to do now? And I said from, I had no idea. And then he suddenly said from, hey, Tom, I have this great opportunity. The business that he had started during the 8 years that I was away was a traiteur deli, so selling charcuterie, cheese, wine. And he said from, we want to expand, and, don't you want to open your deli? We will help you, and, we have a place where you can do it. You can do it on your own. And so everything was pre-arranged and just handed to me on a plate. For me, it was like a gift from the heavens, I had no idea what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I was in this limbo. And again, that question from, am I only going to be a waiter for the rest of my life? That's really depressive for me. And for some people, it can be a great thing. For me, it was not right. And that is when I started this deli on the 9th of the 9th, 99. So it's a day you never forget. And again, 2 months later, I was suicidal depressive.
Oh.
So it was even lower than the lows that I had already been. And because it didn't work, I felt imprisoned in my shop.
Huh.
Because I was used to traveling around the world, right? I used to work on cruise ships on the Queen Elizabeth II. I went to New Zealand. I went to Auckland. We went to Chiano and all these places, right?
Yeah.
And then you start, you come into this shop, and I didn't realize how important freedom for me was. I didn't know myself at all. And that kind of freedom of being able to wander was very important. And some people say, but Tom, you're an osteopath now. You have your practice in Brussels. Yes, but it's my center from where I can travel and explore the world again. I'm going to India now to teach. At the end of the year, I'm going to Brazil. And in the meantime, I'm still hoping to go to South Africa and Dubai, right?
But then again, there is a transformation waiting to be heard about, because here you are deep down in the doldrums, feeling really caged, literally. And having said that, there is not enough Belgian chocolate in your shop to get you out of that darkness.
Yes. I was
did you try the Belgian chocolate? I mean, it has phenomenal medicinal purposes, so I've been taught.
Yeah, so exactly. So that came from then that kind of how do you say it? So it's reconfirmed over and over again. It has another word, I can't think of it. And then when that shop didn't work, of course, that for me was like the moment where I started to believe that my dad was right. And that my auntie that I heard in the background, oh, Tom will never make it, when you're like a 9-year-old or 10-year-old. And then these things come up out of your memory. And I say okay, they probably are right. And then what's the point of living? What's the point of going on? I had a mother who was ill all her life and still is, but she's thriving at the moment in her role of being in a wheelchair and things like that, because she's taken care of very well by the retirement home where she is, and that's where I saw her live for the last 10 years for the first time. So I also have this kind of image of what sickness is, what depression is. And my mother went to the psychiatrist, went into care for sometimes a month when I was younger. And, when I saw that, I said, I don't want that life. And if I said, life needs to have meaning, needs to have a sense. I need to feel that I evolve in some way. There must be something that a good future, something that you want to wake up for. And I had none of that. None. And I said, if that's it, I don't want it. I don't want it, because that doesn't make sense to me.
Absolutely.
When there is life, there must be meaning and purpose, because that is for me, intrinsically related to life. And now I can talk about this, but at the time you have to know that I was a very, very ignorant person in many ways about life, right? I was blue behind my ears. At 29, I was still a kid. I'm a late bloomer, I call myself. And so, but inside of me, I could feel the truth of it. And in one of your shows that I listened to recently, the lady said, I can't remember her name, the lady said also something, sometimes you need to listen to yourself and not to what others say. And this is indeed a truth that I resonate with. It doesn't mean that you should not get help and do it all by yourself. because I did not get out of my problems by myself. Somebody saw me struggling. It was the local pharmacist who I had befriended. It was so I was 29. It was the first person that I ever talked about my problems about. My parents did not know my troubles. Never. My friends did not know about my troubles inside. I've never, ever discussed it. They discussed theirs. I never shared mine. My dad and my mother only found out by reading my book in 2018. So when I was 48, that's when they found out how I felt and how far I had gone down the rabbit hole.
What made you change? What made you suddenly open up to this friend of yours, to this pharmacist? What made the change there?
I think there was a few elements. First, I was deep down the rabbit hole. I was at the bottom of the bottom. Two, I trusted her. You know, I always thought she was 10 years older than me, but she was actually 20 years older than me. I didn't realize that. So that's how good she looked. And she was married, she had 2 children, and there was some kind of I think there was a spiritual bond between us somehow.
Nice.
There was something more to it, and suddenly, we had just had conversations. So I never really, it's like not a psychologist or something like. We just had conversations, but in these conversations, all of these elements came up. And then she came in one day into my shop, and she said, "So Tom," and she had a piece of paper with a number and one name. And she's from, "Here's a number. Elena is the name. Call her. She will help you." And then she said, "It's an astrologer."
Okay.
So we're talking the year 2000, right? You know, and an astrologer. And the thing is that she had seen her give a presentation about what astrology is, and you know that it's not some kind of divinatory science, but that it is based on, you know, more like on psychology, and that she's like a coach more than anything else, like a life coach. And I rejected it straight away, right? You know, I said, I was just thinking about in the little newspapers and things like that, and I said, "Oh, no way, you know, that's for desperate people." That's not for me. That's for desperate people. And I think it was about 3 weeks later that I called the lady, and about a month later, I was sitting behind her desk, and the first question she asked me was, "So what are you doing here?" And it's like not even "Hello, how are you?" No, "What are you doing here?" And it was this really tall, slanky, intimidating person, right? And she was standing up, and she was like, and I was like, "Ooh." And the question is like, "What are you doing here?" And I thought, "I'm an astrologer, don't you know?" Doesn't she know what I'm doing here? Anyway, no, but she made all the difference for me, right? She asked me, you know, "Tell me your story." After I said, "From what am I doing here?" I said, I'm trying to find that kind of balance within me. I could describe that inside there is like this wheel going into one direction and another going into this other direction. And it's like, it feels I'm in conflict, you know, this is not right. And I want to find out what this is, where the 2 wheels are, you know, somewhere rolling with the flow and in a similar direction. I said, "Okay." She said, "Okay, tell me your story." And so I started to tell my story, as we are doing here in many ways. And then she gave me homework with 3 questions. She said, "You always talk about your friends and they're better than you and you're nothing. Now describe me in what are they better?" Okay. So I had to describe my friends and what, in a way, I shorten it in what I admire in them. And then the second question was, Why do people come to you? Remember, I mentioned this before. Why do people come to you? Just so that's where it comes from. Now you know. So I had to look what people were asking me for help. Yeah. And then the third thing was, what had I done that I would say, I wish I could do this for the rest of my life, right? That kind of flow experience. Oh. And of course, the stories that I wrote down, I sent it to her, and then these were discussed. And from these stories, 5 words emerged. And that was therapy, therapist, communicator, teacher, researcher, and traveler. And then she pointed it out in the astrology chart where they were. And then it suddenly made all sense that this was my potential that I just had found. Through these questions, I had unearthed the potential that was within me, wanting and screaming to be developed.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And it just shows that sometimes you have no clue who the catalyst will be, who comes into your life. And one of the biggest mistakes that you can do is say no to, how should I say that? Sometimes it's very good to say no to opportunities. There is the fear of missing out, but there's also the joy of missing out. So let's be clear, there is a good balance there. Having said that, sometimes people come into your life for a reason. And I'm so pleased for you that you jumped over your shadow, that you actually just gave it a shot. See what could possibly go wrong. And I love that. I love that, because you never know who you meet, who asks you a question that will start that seed to grow in your brain. And that's exactly what happened to you.
And that's like 23 years ago. And it's like still today, I'm in awe and I'm so grateful for the process that happens, right? Because it's also when you're saying from fear of missing out or joy of missing out, at the end of the day, these 5 words then were projected into the future. That's where the futurist idea started, right? Because she said now create an ideal day in 10 years time. Oh, no. And I thought, but I have so many problems now. My business is failing. I am failing. Why do I have to think about in 10 years time about myself, right? It seems to be completely ludicrous, bonkers. But I was so scared of her that I did my homework. Sometimes it's really good to be intimidated by somebody. And so I did write it down. And again, fantastic how that then has influenced my life, because everything I wrote down then, in my deep suicidal depression, in my worst days of my life, that what I wrote down, I am today. Right? And I wrote down, I'm a therapist that has developed his own approach. I have that. Who has written a book about it. I have 2 books, but not that book yet. That's my next one. And I'm asked around the world to give presentations and workshops.
Nice.
That was the description of my ideal day that I based on the logical deduction that if life was going to make sense, then it had to be linked to my potential, because why else would I be born with potential different than somebody else? If I'm born with these gifts, with these talents, with these innate abilities that other people don't have or have different ones, wouldn't that make sense then that you develop them, and that in that development that you feel more that you feel more in line and in harmony? It was, at the time, it was just a logical deduction that I could imagine. Today I say damn right it is.
If you think that through, though, It is beautiful. But how did you come to become an osteopath? What made you choose that? Because
Okay.
ultimately, many of the things that you're doing nowadays are trauma informed, are essentially actually very logical, logical growths that you logical paths you went on, but then you had no clue. So how did you choose?
Okay. Little step back for that is that when I wrote the stories from these 3 questions, one of the stories was that what people said about me or what they thanked me for. And it was really strange. I wrote down that at New Year, when my aunties were sitting around the table, right? And I was standing up and I was going to listen in. I always would put my hands on their on one's shoulders, right? And my hands always started to massage automatically. It did this, right? And then I was listening, and then when I went away, they said, hey, don't go away, come back. And then I was for some reason, I thought about this when I had this question. And I was thinking if somebody doesn't have that gift in their hands, and somebody puts their hands on your shoulder and say, hey, don't do that. Huh? Or you wave them away. But with me, it was the opposite. Please, 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 please stay.
Excellent.
And so manual was somewhere already present in my stories.
Nice.
Okay, the next step. So I have my goal, I have my future, the ideal day of my future, I have it. And it's about 2 months later that again, the pharmacist, right? Second time she influenced me, took me to a presentation on kinesiology, so muscle testing, energy work. And when I saw this lady giving the presentation to promote her workshops, I said, but that's it. I am not trained as a medical doctor. I don't have any medical background, but that's a therapy. That is a therapy I can do. And so as soon as that presentation was finished, I subscribed to her next workshop. And then the first day or something, like in the first hours when we started to do that, she looked at me and she said, have you done this before? And I said, no, but for me, it's like easy peasy. It's like, it feels like coming home, right? It's like I've done it all my life. He said, but if you like this, then you have to do this course and that course. So I followed like loads of courses in kinesiology during, in the time that I had available. Yeah. And then, about a year and a half later, I went back to the astrologer who had like also become a little bit of a sort of a friend, somebody that I could go and talk to without having a consultation. And I said, Elena, do I have to become a doctor? Because, I want more. I want a better education. Kinesiology was still very much into the complementary field. Mm-hmm. And I wanted something a little bit more grounded. And that's when she gave straight answer. For the first time ever, she gave me a straight answer. She says, or osteopathy or Chinese medicine. Oh. And I had no relationship with Chinese medicine. I've never been treated by Chinese medicine. I didn't even know really what it meant, except for acupuncture. But I had been treated by an osteopath kinesiologist. Oh, nice. And so it was very clear it's osteopathy. And then wonder by wonder, in the year that I'm going to look for where can I study osteopathy, a school opens in Brussels where I live.
As if there is not a larger force at play who says, okay, come on, let's take it.
I'm totally in awe by this kind of you can't call it coincidence anymore. It's like fate. But again, the importance of that is, and I want to come back to what you said earlier on of joy of missing out or fear of missing out. Once you have that future outlined, once you are clear about this is the life that I want, based on your potential, based on how you want to feel and your aspirations. It's what I call the DNA of your future, which is the topic of my second book, the Futures Effect. Because I found in looking back that my life has been based on that what does not alter. DNA does not alter. I found the stability through change in my life. I wanted to feel, remember that I said this before, I was not feeling well. I didn't have no hope. I was not feeling very well. I had my aspirations of life, that having this to evolve and to have a good future was all, I didn't have none of that. Yeah. So my DNA was based on how do I want to feel? I want to feel content, fulfilled, and healthy. Do you think that at 80, I don't want to feel content, fulfilled, and healthy? I think, yes, I still do. And I've always done. So that is does not alter in my feelings, does not alter in my aspirations, is a great future, i.e. life, which is good, resilient, evolvable, actionable, and transcendent. So at the end of my life, to say there's meaning, there is purpose, and I'm leaving this place a better place for me, being in it for the next generation. So I'm a transgenerational thinker. And the bonds between these two strands is my potential. That is what makes my feelings and my aspirations into an ongoing reality. So with that, I've created my future. At the time, I did not know that. And so now, by looking back, I see models. And why models are important? Because models, you can pass them on. It becomes something concrete. And what we need in this fast-changing world is models that are for life, so that when everything around changes, that you have a structure to hang on to, on which you can hang. Yeah? So it's like a coat hanger, one of these poles, and then you hang things on there and take things off them. But that does not change. Yeah. And this is what is going to create the future, what we want, and it's going to give us the resilience we need to be flexible and adaptable in this fast-changing world. Because what we need is something to hold on to, because when everything changes, fear comes up, anxiety comes up, because we don't know what is going to get. But what if you have this kind of DNA of your future, then you always have something you don't need to be fearful of, because that DNA can be expressed in different ways. And then we go into epigenetics. Epigenetics says the way a DNA is stimulated will change the expression. So today I'm a therapist expressed as an osteopath. But when I'm 80, I might be a therapist sitting in my sofa in my retirement home listening to the nurses.
Which is hard to imagine, because I think you will still be the leader. You will still be a man who is active. You will still want to grow. You will still want to have a meaning, and all those things. I cannot see that you suddenly stop. Okay, that's it now. I've arrived at my destination. It says none of the people ever who come onto my show, because we are nearly hooked. We are addicted to this new life where we actually find meaning, where we actually find ways of expressing ourselves. The joy of writing a book, the joy of actually talking to someone and seeing the lights go on in their eyes, to see hope arriving in their brain. Now that is beautiful. That is a power. And once you actually tasted that power, you don't want to let go. This is just very addictive. And that is the kind of addiction I like. Okay. So
yeah, and that is part of what I mean, my aspirations. All that you are describing are in part of my aspirations for life. And so no, they won't change. But I know that I will be able to express them in different ways, right? Depending on my environment, depending how the world has changed, depending on my abilities. Because, okay, I always want to be an inspiration, but what if I'm physically, that something happens to me? Yeah, or that, dementia is a reality in many people. Will I get that? I don't know. It's a futurists are scenario thinkers, right? We have scenarios of the future. This can happen. And so if this, then that can happen. And so we are thinking in scenarios, but I found with my DNA for the future that one structure that is in every single scenario. It's like, because I am in every single scenario, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And my backbone is in that scenario as well. So I found my other backbone that is in every single scenario, and that won't change. And so, but I can think, oh, but this might happen, like in the retirement home, in my sofa, and listening to somebody. That can happen. It can easily be that I'm still giving presentations until my 80s or 90s, and that I'm still doing some kind of manual therapy. Sure, that's another scenario. Okay, that's great, And I know the one I prefer. You have your preferable scenario, and you have the probables, and you have the plausibles, and all of that. And I find that fascinating because, again, I have hope for the future, right? Why? Because I have a structure I can fall back upon too. And I'm in control of that. I'm in control of the development. And with small steps, because this is a 23-year process that I'm explaining in a couple of minutes, right? But I've seen it work for me. I'm seeing it work for other people. So because it's a universal truth behind it, right?
I like that. I like that a lot. But what you're really talking about is to take action, to take small steps, but to actually decide who you want to be when you grow up, and then take small but smart steps to actually get there. And often enough, we think, oh, I just need another course or another book or another guru of sorts. The reality is just you need to actually look at yourself, at your basic needs, and start looking after yourself. You are using your hands, which points to the fact that muscles, and in your case, the alignment of the spine and of the joints, can give us so many clues what's wrong or what's right in a body, how we can manipulate that. So after all, the issues lie in the tissues. So therefore, a man like you are talking about exercise. You're talking about using the body basically as a messenger, as well as using it to message to what is inside and get you better. So there is the exercise. There is actually the very basic principle of us moving our body in the way that it was designed. So that's beautiful. There's already one action there that all of us can take, that all of us can do. It's one of the healthy eights, one of those 8 things in life that we know are paramount for you living a fulfilled and long life, and that is exercise and going out there using your body the way it is designed. So that is what you are all about as an osteopath. But you are so much more. So here you are, on the one hand, this kind of futurize me, which is sort of a bit abstract. On the other hand, there's this very practical here. Let's straighten you out. What else is there? I know you have got your own system to actually reset yourself. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, Reaset Approach, which is reset is written R-E-A-S-E-T. So the middle word is ease, the return to ease. And it's basically body-centered stress coaching. So stress management, but not necessarily through the talk therapy, but it's about first calming that autonomous nervous system and also like bringing back balance within the body's neurohormonal systems, but through touch. right? If you have a child and it's in distress, you're not going to say, and what's wrong? And you're like this, and you don't going to touch, and this child is crying, and you can see that there is a lot of stress going on. No, you grab it and you hold it, and then you soothe it through your touch, and maybe sometimes to change your voice and yes, it will be okay, darling. So you're using also the auditive part, and I'm not hugging my clients, right? But I'm doing craniosacral therapy, which represents I've discovered that there are specific areas on the head that when you touch them, it has more influence in calming that autonomic nervous system. And that is so important today because our autonomic nervous system, which hasn't evolved at all in a say, but our environment has, right? And it's being triggered so much that it can lead to what I call stress-related dysautonomia, so a disbalance in the autonomic nervous system where there is more sympathetic tone than parasympathetic, the relaxation and recuperation, I suppose. It can actually be fixed, and then you get these multimodal problems, right? So first of all, I have neck, shoulder, and back pain. And it's true that like in 5 to 10 years ago, people came, I have neck, shoulder, back pain, and that was it. Today, I have neck, shoulder, back pain, and I don't sleep very well, and I have mood swings, and my concentration is going down, and my digestion, I have these strange kind of feelings in my legs, and it's like, oh my God. So you have this one, they come for this one problem, and then they have all these other problems, and they go to the doctor. And unfortunately, the doctor at this moment is looking at disease by disease, right? For the physical, go to see the physiotherapist. For that part, maybe you should stick like a psychologist or maybe to a psychiatrist. And for this, take this pill, and for that, to take that pill. And so disease by disease, symptom by symptom, while behind it, in many cases, is stress-related dysautonomia. And when you start there, and then start to, so I'm working on the head to calm that autonomic nervous system, then to go through the body and to relieve all the overcompensation, so to reset, return to ease the muscles, the ligaments, the abdominal part. So to really work around that body from head to toe, allowing all the tensions to unwind themselves before even thinking about doing a spinal decoaptation adjustment, and then to go to the symptom. And all in one session, and most of the time within 20 minutes. And yes, it needs sometimes 2 or 3 sessions, but that's it, right? So this is the reset approach. And I've noticed that, yes, but I can do that, but I can help other people to do that as well. And because I say okay, am I the talented one and I have a gift that nobody else has? No. And who do I teach it to? Well, to physiotherapists, because who else touches the body still in the regular medical and therapy field? Yeah. But physiotherapists are unfortunately going more and more into technological therapy, stimulation, vibration, radiation, and I'm seeing this kind of the touch of physiotherapists is going away. And they also program the doctor says do this. They don't touch the patient. They are not really examining them anymore. It's straight away from, okay, this is the protocol. And I'm starting to say hey, look, this is okay, but for the last 5 to 10 minutes of your treatment, but now let's bring the hands back and start listening to your patient, what is happening.
Very much so.
So I'm not teaching them osteopathy, but I'm teaching them how to really listen and start to follow the body, and say from the body knows, and allowing the body to unwind itself first before you actually start making yourself decisions to help. So for me, first part is I'm listening, accompany the body to reset itself. And then at one stage, I have to make a decision and say okay, the body is in this state, but I can improve by my own volition, through the knowledge, through the experience that I have. If I do a spinal decoaptive adjustment, that's not the body saying do this, right? This me that decides. And then maybe I need to readjust an ankle because it's been twisted, right? The body is not going to ask me that, but I can feel that it's blocked, and I'm going to make a decision to do that from my experience, from what I've learned. So, but first I'm going to listen, and then I add my knowledge, my experience.
The physical examination and the physical touch, to use the body to actually let the body tell you what it needs and what
yes.
it requires.
Okay. And you see this? Do you notice?
Yeah.
This is a thoraflux. So this is what is normal. So a thoraflux is a spiral, and when you press on it, and it jumps back open. So you have, that is resilience. Yeah. So when you have the resilience, when there is too much pressure at one stage, then the tissues are going to contract and they don't rebound, or you have stress a little bit, and then it contracts. And the first thing is listen to the tissues, follow them, and then it opens up.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to do first, is to allowing the body, again, in one of your shows, and the body knows, right? We have to listen to the body, and the body has self-healing mechanisms, but sometimes they're perturbed. But it's about going back to the body's self-healing mechanism and starting to see okay, where are you blocking? I'm taking you there so you can unblock yourself.
Beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And that's exactly it. We have the power to stop for a moment and listen to our body, because if we can do that to ourselves, listen. But it is, of course, if you have someone like you, Tom, who actually has this ability to skill as well as expertise and knowledge to listen to the right places, then
accelerate what is happening.
Exactly.
I'm an enzyme, right? I'm the accelerator.
The catalyst.
The accelerator. Gonna put that on my card.
That's right. That's well, it is.
They say already, yes, Tom the health navigator. Now it becomes Tom the health accelerator.
I like that, actually. I like that, because that is then actually allowing your body to function better. Those blockages that you were talking about, this kind of tension in some parts of your body, whilst other parts are literally paralyzed. You think, what the heck? And unless you meet someone who actually can switch on parts of your body again that you didn't know were actually switched off, it is like a bloody miracle, honestly. Stephan, hold your arm out there. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's good. The other arm. Okay, blop. What the hell? What?
Yes,
what? Let me just switch that back on. But what did you just do? Unbelievable. And then you realize actually how beautiful your body is, but equally how the influences in our environment, if we don't know how to guard ourselves or work with these influences, how much they can put a stress on our body. Our body then does what it does best. It defends itself by often enough going tight, going, I'm all relaxed. I'm very relaxed today. Yeah. I've got a beautiful, No, you're not. But for many people, they don't realize that. So therefore, often coming to someone like you is a start of a journey, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes. And the what I've been discovering also is that there's that stress response, because it's not had these updates, right? It's actually become a stressor itself. So imagine that your stress response become a stressor because it's being because it has no update, and it's being expressing itself in a way that is for a very physical attack, right? To fight, to flight. But this is being tense up all the time. And so, and because of the stimulation of our environment, change is actually triggering the stress response. Because we need to adapt. More change, more adaptation, so more stress. And if that balance, and if that doesn't get the needed time to recuperate and regenerate, then it stays on. And then, of course, you get all these problems, health problems, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And so that is also where that kind of futurization idea comes in. Is from, okay, but so we know that a lot of change is going to come. And how do I going to help myself to cope better with the changes that are going to come? And my proposition is find your potential, create your DNA for the future, and create the structure that does not alter over time, from which you can always rebound, right? You can always fall back to. So I'm connecting that future thinking with my therapy as a physical therapist, also because evolution is too slow, and because evolution takes generation to evolve. So you have the natural evolution is too slow for the environment we've created. And so there is a conflict between biology and culture. And so what are we going to do about it? And maybe this kind of futurist thinking and futurizing yourself concept is part of the evolopsis, or evolving on purpose. That in combination with the natural evolution, that we can start bringing a more conscious evolution and bring these two parts together to better go forward, to flourish and thrive in this fast changing world without becoming technology. Because once you put technology within the body, and this is my opinion, right? This is my opinion, that once you start putting technology in the body, that has an executive role. So it's making decisions for you without, not from any part of your body. Then, of course, it's going to switch off functions because it's not used anymore. Then function will have an impact on structure. For example, DNA. If the DNA doesn't get a certain stimulus, then it will express itself differently. And that difference will be passed on to the next generation, which is for me a de-evolution, right? Because the technology is not transmitted through the next generation in a natural way. So then we get a de-evolution. We impoverish the next generation. And sometimes it has an impact on 3 generations later, as we've seen in Holland, for example, when there was a famine. And the 3 generations later, they discovered that the descendants of them are more prone for depression.
Absolutely.
This is science. And so for me, I'm worried, as I said before, I'm a transgenerational thinker. I'm worried that what we're doing with the body, if we put technology in, that it will be game over for mankind. Okay, it will take another form maybe, but I cannot, with my limited kind of imagination on that, I cannot see it, that is a positive evolution. While I know that from my own experience, how I've evolved over the last 23 years, being more conscious and implementing more conscious evolutions into my life, how much richer my life has become, how much lighter my life has become.
And there's maybe
so
the duty for us.
Problem.
There's a duty for us to actually go out there and actually spell that out. To say that the world will not succeed by having quick fixes. Let that be a drink to calm the nerves down, or let that have some technology implant that make your life just a little bit easier, or an automatic filter that somehow makes you look good. And for crying out loud, So I actually agree with you. Maybe it is our duty to say that that there are hard times, maybe for a reason. There is that these hard times are there to challenge us, to make us grow, to make us adapt, and that therefore a new, better species is coming out. So I like that, and I think there's a nice saying: hard times make hard men create better times create weak men. And I think that is what we are seeing here now, and weak men create hard times. So I think we can be our best allies and friends by allowing us to grow and expand our horizons, learn to listen again to the innate abilities that we have, rather than trying quick fixes or try, take weight loss at the moment. There are new drugs on the market that can help people to lose weight. But, guess what? As the moment you stop them, you bounce back. It's just like a diet. It's just like anything else. So again, we are going for a quick fix rather than changing the way we live, changing the way towards a more sustainable and healthy way forward. And I think that is the duty that we have as maybe people who have transformed, that we spell it out to others, that you guys can do it too. Don't go for the false friends, but actually.
And it asks you to work on it, right?
Correct.
And it's also for the brain, for example. Futures thinking for the brain, for long-term thinking, is actually very difficult. And they have discovered that when you think about your future self, in 5-10 years time, the same area in your brain lights up as a stranger you don't know very well. Right? So the future you is a stranger you don't know very well. Correct. So why take care? Right? But the quest is aim to create future self continuity, which I describe also what that is in my book, The Futures Effect. Is like the more that you're going to work with the future you, and so I have created my future me. So this is 23 years ago, and I brought it into my present. And so I'm always into this relationship with my future me. And then, of course, then that becomes you, right? So the more that you're going to do that, that future you is not a stranger anymore. It is me.
Oh, nice. I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
And there is another aspect, because we probably need to end it soon, but it is this reincarnation, right? And this is like a bonkers idea. So like after death, I think about that because I have no fear of dying or something like that. And I just want to I want to make the best of life, but if it happens, it happens. But what is afterwards? Is there nothing or something? Okay, let's say it's 50-50. We don't know. And some cultures believe there is something later. Okay, the quest is, if it's true that some part of our soul comes back into a body, how do you want that world to look like? Because if you think from 50% chance that you will come back, don't you want that world to look? Don't you want that world to be somewhere where you actually want to live in?
Yeah.
Well, then today, your decisions, your choices and actions make that future.
I like that.
And then I think I was thinking about this in the last couple of weeks, and this is quite an interesting concept, right? To give people more motivation to also start thinking of a little bit more ecologically, sustainably, sustainability, about technology, about the way where we are going and so forth, by thinking from, hey, you can say from no way that we will be reincarnated, but then there are many cultures that do believe it. Right? Who is right? I don't know.
Exactly right. Oh man, I could talk to you for hours, Tom. This is a beautiful rabbit hole to go down and actually ponder and reflect about our possibilities, our duties, our responsibilities. Yeah, it's lovely. Look, if other people get fascinated about you, where can they learn more about you?
Well, my website is futurizeyourself.com. I think that's once you're there, you have all the links, and find me on LinkedIn. Please, connect with me on LinkedIn, where I also have a newsletter where I actually serialized my last book. And so,
beautiful, beautiful.
So for free, my last book, The Future's Effect, Change Your Story, Change Your Future, is all there. And we are now at episode 51 today. So, but all the 51 weeks I've been serializing my book, and there's a few more to go, a few more weeks to go. But yeah, find me there. It's I wanted to try it, and I think it's fascinating how how you share, and we are in a sharing economy as well.
Absolutely. And that is how we all grow, by learning from each other and creating super teams. I love it. Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast. You'll find all his links there. And guys, what have you got to lose? That get stimulated, get infused. Don't take your current situation for granted. The current situation is whatever it is. Like, my educated guess is it's not so nice. So just take that as energy that is ready to propulse you. Imagine someone pulling back the string of a bow. You just need to aim now and choose where you want to go. You're ready, that you're feeling not right. That is the power that is waiting to be unleashed. How cool is that? Hey, so now, guys, go out there, check his books out. Good reading. I can testify to that. He is an amazing man, Tom Myers. Thank you so much for coming onto my show. I really, really, I put a smile on my face because I pondered a lot, I reflected a lot, and it made me a different man than the man who started that interview. I like that.
Great. And I want to leave the audience with one last question. Coming from an osteopath, mind your body before your body reminds you.
Ooh! Oh, I like it. I might just have to steal that. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, because we're talking a lot about the mind and thinking, yes, but whatever you do, your body is creating all your dreams, right? It's always part of it. So mind your body before your body reminds you. It's good advice.
Oh, 100%. And you guys out there, you heard it all. Look after yourself and live with passion. Bye.
Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.